Hi everyone, we're back again to continue with the unraveling of the Apostle Paul. The last video that is in the playlist is describing the Apostle Paul as a alchemist and a Gnosticist. We're going to go into a little bit further about alchemy and the profile of an alchemist and the things that are important to an alchemist and the drive that the alchemist has. And this is coming from the Jewish encyclopedia on alchemy. And you can look into books, and there's plenty of Jewish volumes of the Jewish encyclopedia. Everything that I'm bringing to you about the Apostle Paul is written. Nothing is made up. It's all fact that we are discussing and comparing to whatever it is that the Bible gives us about him. This is basically an investigation to figure out why we know more about ancient Egypt and the archaeological finds and the bones of giants than we do about the Apostle Paul. And why is Jesus's walk and his way hidden? There are many, many clues. There's so much literature out there, so much documentation, and it just, we need the Holy Spirit's guidance to bring us to the truth. All right, we're just going to go a little bit at a time with this, and just to describe basically what alchemy is. It's an ancient art that was the origin of chemistry, was the inception, the beginning of chemistry. The Jewish association with alchemy dates from ancient times. Zosimos, Zosimos, a 5th century Greek historian, states that the Jews acquired the secrets of the sacred craft of the Egyptians and the knowledge of the power of gold, which derives from it by dishonest means, and they imparted the knowledge of alchemy to the rest of the world. In ancient Greek manuscripts, which contain lists of writings on alchemy, a number of alchemic and magic writings are attributed to Moses. Now, just wait a minute, because I'm going to continue here. It says, one work is ascribed to Hosea, the king of Israel. Be-zal'e-el was also considered a proficient alchemist on the basis of Exodus 31, verses 1 through 5. The author of the above-mentioned writings was most probably Moses of Alexandria. Now, there was more than one Moses. And let me just tell you who Moses of Alexandria was, so that you can differentiate against the Moses who gave us the 10 Commandments. Moses of Alexandria, often known simply as Moses or Moses the alchemist, was an early alchemist who wrote Greek alchemical texts around the 1st or 2nd century. He has also been called Moses the thrice happy. The author of these alchemical texts was likely Jewish, since his writings show traces of Jewish monotheism and other Jewish beliefs. Moses the alchemist is often conflated with biblical Moses. Now, what does the word conflated mean? It means it means combined. It means that they took the story of Moses and the story of Moses of Alexander, and they combined the two. They intermingled the two stories. And this could be why when Jesus came, he spoke to the Pharisees about the Levitical law. Okay, because the Levitical law was Cabal and it had alchemy. You see? Jesus never abolished the Ten Commandments. He wanted to abolish this alchemy.
Okay, I found this on the web for Jesus never abolished the 10th. Check it out.
See? My phone just started talking by itself and it shut off. Jesus never abolished the Ten Commandments. Just said it. It repeated what I said. That's the Holy Spirit right there. Okay? Can't get any more confirmation than that, people. Let me back up again and because I lost my place. Moses the alchemist is often conflated with the biblical Moses. The opening passage of his work is an altered version of the book of Exodus 31, verse 2 to 5. In antiquity, the Bible Moses, the biblical Moses, was believed to be the founder of the arts and sciences, including philosophy. What have we been talking about with Paul? He's been talking in Athens to Socrates and Plato. Philo. Come on, people. Get with it. Go back to the playlist and frequent yourself with the videos that I put up here. It's telling you the deception here. The opening passage of his work is an altered version of the book of Exodus 31, 2 to 5. In antiquity, the biblical Moses was believed to be the founder of the arts and sciences, including philosophy and medicine, pharmakia, alchemy, magical papyri were also attributed to him. The works attributed to Moses of Alexandria include alchemical prescriptions for the treatment of mercury, copper, arsenic, and the distillation of water, and instructions for chrysopoeia, how to separate everything, how to separate the metals. The author of the above-mentioned writing was most probably Moses of Alexandria, a famous alchemist, which would explain why they were later ascribed to Moses the lawgiver. In any case, it seems certain that the author was a Jew, since his writings show traces of Jewish monotheism and other Jewish beliefs. Towards the end of the Middle Ages and later, the connection between alchemy and the Bible and prophets was strengthened in the view of Christian alchemists who despaired of finding the philosopher's stone by natural means and sought to attain it by the grace of God. Who's all about grace? Grace here, grace there, grace here, grace there. Who's touting grace in the Bible? The Apostle Paul, the alchemist. It's sent it right here in the Jewish Encyclopedia. The alchemist despaired of finding the philosopher's stone by natural means and sought to attain it by the grace of God, who reveals his secret only to his faithful. There's the faith. Faith. Faith, 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 faith. Grace, 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 grace. It's right here, right here. The alchemists believed, therefore, that the patriarchs, the prophets, and the kings of Israel possessed the secret of the stone. Gerhard Dorn, in the end of the 16th century, contended that the whole art of alchemy was contained in the verse, God made the firmament, in Genesis 1:7. Michael Mayer, the physician of Rudolf II and chief exponent of the Rosicrucian order in Germany in the 17th century, found its basis in the verse, the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters in Genesis 1:2, the waters being Mercury. Egidius Guthmann of Augsburg wrote a lengthy alchemical interpretation of the first verses of Genesis. Tubal-Cain, who lived before the flood, was considered the father of alchemy, since it was said of him that he was the forger of every cutting instrument of brass and iron in Genesis 4:22. These alchemists particularly singled out the name Medhetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Me-zal'e-el in Genesis 36:39. The name Me-zal'e-el means waters of gold, was interpreted to mean that he knew how to produce drinkable gold. And Metabel possibly reminded them of the Greek metabole, which means transmutation. Ibn Ezra heard this interpretation of Me-zal'e-el and remarked in his commentary, others say it refers to those said who make gold out of brass, but this is nonsense. The first men mentioned in Genesis would not have, according to the alchemists, reached such an old age had they not made use of the exler vitae. They also contended that Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold, that you can read in Genesis 13:2, because he learned the secret of alchemy from Hermes in Egypt. All the patriarchs, as well as Judah, wore the philosopher's stone on their bodies. Moses was, however, according to them, the first and foremost among the biblical experts. As late in the 18th century, an alchemist wrote a book, Urim und Thummim van Moses, Handlung van großen Propheten und Feldherrn zum Weisenstein, which means the oracles of Moses, a guide to the philosopher's stone by the great prophet and general Nuremberg in 1737. King David was considered an expert alchemist, since he could only have raised 100,000 talents of gold and 1,000 talents of silver for building the house of the Lord in 1 Chronicles 22:14 by alchemical means. Further support for this assumption was abducted from the glistening stones, which are the philosopher's stones. Solomon learned the secret from his father and was therefore able to provide silver and gold to be in Jerusalem as stones in 2 Chronicles 1:15. According to the story quoted by Johanan Alemano in his Sefer HaLutkim from the Arab alchemist Abu Aflah of Syracuse, supposedly originally found in the esoteric Sefer HaMazpun, ascribed to King Solomon, the precious stone with which the Queen of Sheba presented Solomon in 1 Kings 10:2, was none other than the philosopher's stone which she had inherited from her first husband, Sman, who was a great Nabatean sage. Didn't we talk about sages? Sage is a rabbi, and a rabbi reaches a rabbi through alchemy, through mysticism, through alchemical mysticism. The Queen of Sheba's aim was to test King Solomon's wisdom, but he already knew the secret and recognized the stone immediately. The prophet Elijah, also considered a great expert in alchemy, is frequently mentioned by the Christian alchemists, and some of their writings bear his name. Jewish influence is evident from the fact that they too contend that Elijah would, on his return to earth, provide the answer to all the unsolved problems. The prophet Isaiah was also considered to have been an expert on the basis of the verses, quote, "I will set thy stones in fair colors and lay thy foundations with sapphires," in Isaiah 54:11. "And for brass I will bring gold, and for iron I will bring silver." That is the alchemy, when the transmutation from one metal to another. The first verses in chapter 3 of the book of Malachi were interpreted in an alchemaic and Christological manner. Daniel and Ezra. The name of Job's 3 daughters, Jeremiah, Keziah, and Karen Hapuch, were also interpreted in a religious and alchemaic spirit. Now I'm going to go on to alchemy and the Kabbalah, but I'm going to break it here because it's a lot to digest, and I'll be right back with alchemy and the Kabbalah. Stay tuned, people.